a lot of people often hide their story. And when they do, I think they hide their impact and their income and their influence.
Oh yeah.
You know, the power's in your story about being stuck in the trailer. The power's in my story about being a self-injure and stutter, you know. So let's jump right in, man. What do you got planned today?
So basically what I want to do is what I'd like for each of us to do is to share how we have used our stories to sell our books. And I don't mind, to sell our stuff. I don't mind going first, and I can tell, your story's like an accordion. You can take 3 days to tell it, or you can tell it in a couple of minutes. I can tell mine in a couple of minutes, my story that I've used to actually sell a lot of stuff. And then you can share your story, and then we can actually go in and show people some of the scripts that we have in here to
Yeah.
help them tell different stories. So, those of you who don't know me, my name is Jim Edwards. I started selling online in 1997. And the funny thing is I took 4 years to write my first book. I got rejected by 40 different publishers. And the reason I know it's actually more than 40 because I stopped actually counting. And so I ended up throwing the manuscript for my book into a drawer.
Okay.
And in 1997, I pulled it out, and I'd been a mortgage broker, and I decided, you know what, I'm tired of doing this. I'll go be a realtor for a while just to figure out what I want to do. It can't be that hard. I've been working with them for years, so I see what they do. And so I focused on I focused on two markets: expired listings and for sale by owner. That meant calling people whose house didn't sell. They were pissed off that their house didn't sell. And I called them up and asked if I could help sell their house for them. Now you talk about walking into a 2x4, but I mean, I was really good at that. And the other one I went after was the for sale by owner market. And the book that I
Mhm.
had written was based on my experience. And so the book was how to sell, was selling your home alone. It was how to sell your house yourself. And my thought process was, if I actually gave them a book that told them everything they needed to do to actually sell their house, some of them would do it, and a lot of them wouldn't. But if nothing else, maybe I could get them to let me help them buy their next house. So that was what I would call people up on the house. Call people up from the newspaper, and my shtick, this is the exact stick that I would use.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Hey, my name is Jim Edwards with Century 21 Old Williamsburg. I was just calling to see if you had any financing that might be assumable. Now, I knew they didn't because assumable loans had been gone for forever, but they don't know that.
Okay.
And so they'd be like, no, I don't know. Well, let me ask you, while I got you on the phone, let me ask you a quick question. If I had a buyer for your house, would you pay me a commission? Do you have and instantly they would say, what would they say?
Do
Kary, what
you
do you
have a
think?
buyer?
Do you have a buyer? That's right. And my response was, well, I don't know because I haven't seen your house yet. Could I come over and take a quick look?
Mm.
And some would say yes, some would say no. But then what I would do, depending on how far in advance I was going over there, if I could get an appointment the next day or so, I would show up and I would give them a copy of my book. I'm looking around like I
Instantly
don't
they
have
would
one
say,
of the
what
spiral
would they
bound
say?
ones with me.
They would say, I don't know, man. I'm not in real estate. Tell me what they would say. I mean, that's
Wait,
what I'm saying. I'm saying, tell me what they would say.
that's exactly what they said was, do you have a buyer?
Wow.
So I mean, that's it's human nature, dude. It's people. So I would show up with the book and I'd hand it to them and say, hey, I've written a book on how to sell your house yourself. I'd love to give you a copy. I'm trying to get a publisher, and so if it helps you, would you mind giving me a testimonial? Now I want you to see how this all comes together.
Okay.
So if it was going to be a week or more before I could get over there, then I'd send it in the mail ahead of time.
Sweet.
So that was what I would do. So then what would happen is I'd look around the house and I'd get to know them and I'd talk to them about what was going on. I'd just talk to them. Okay. And then I would start working them as a lead. Hey, how's it going? They'd ask me questions about the book, and a funny thing happened. Some of them read the book, sold their house, and gave me testimonials. Others
Wow.
did not. And so at the time, others didn't sell their house. And so I ended up taking 51 listings my first year as a real estate agent, which is
Great.
impossible if you talk to any realtor.
Hmm.
So then in 1997, I started selling my book online. And so all those testimonials that I had gotten from those people, I was able to put on my website to help me sell the book. And that gave
Fantastic.
me instant credibility. And so that's how I got started, was not trying. I was making more money giving my book away and using it as a lead generator. And then it just, that's how I got started with
I love it.
writing and publishing books. So that's kind of my origin story. And
I love it. I
but
love
you
it.
notice how it's very, how I tell that, it's very organized. I tell it the same way, and there are patterns, and I'm going to show you how to do patterns just a minute.
Absolutely. So I tell my story by saying my first three books, I was hiding, and I would write safe theological books that really nobody read. And my fourth book, Your Secret Name, I felt that this was the real book. This was the book where I was going to go and talk about my past. And I was deathly afraid. I did not want to talk about the fact that I had struggled with self-injury, that I was a pastor now, and who knows, I might lose my job if I came out with my story. But rather than sit in fear, I kind of prayed about it, and I didn't hear God speak, but I kind of felt in my heart, you don't have to share this story, Kary, but if you don't, you will miss out on the biggest blessing of your life. And I'm like, oh, great. I don't have many options there. But Jim, I decided to say, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I really believe now, and everybody watching, that for a lot of us, the area of our deepest wound, the area of our deepest pain is going to be the area of our biggest platform. So I really believe that your pain can become your platform. Your story can become God's glory. And as a result, Jim, I went with that story, and that was the book that put me on the map because it was real. Just like Jim's book is real and raw and unfiltered, people are sick of all the pretense.
Right.
You read a book that's a lot of pretense and a lot of, can I even trust this person? Jim went straight out with his testimonials, and those people probably said, I followed this guy and it worked. And people can sense that authenticity. It's the same thing with me that said, I struggled. And here's what we teach, Jim, today. I mean, I want people to think every nonfiction book has what's called a success path.
Right.
They start here and they got a solution. They started with the problem, they ended up with the answer. And you, my friend, who are watching this, you are the guide. Now, I get this from Donald Miller Story Brand. You're not the hero. If I presented myself as the hero in Your Secret Name, people would be like, blah, 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 whatever. If Jim presented himself as the hero in his real estate book, who cares? We were the guide that helps the reader solve their problem. So folks, you got to catch that. Success path, problem, solution, framework. A framework is a solution broken down into simple steps. Jim, we got a lot of people commenting today. They're excited.
The
Share with
one,
us, my
the
friend.
the one thing, and then I'll show you this I'll show you, we got a bunch of different storyline wizards in here. But one of the things that I found over the years, and using a story in any situation, but especially a story to sell, is it answers three questions. Okay. The first question is, who are you? Okay. That the people want to know, who is this person that's trying to sell me something? Why did you write your book in this instance? Why did you create this product? Why did you create this coaching program? And in this case, we're talking about, why did you create this book? And why are you qualified to be the one teaching and helping me? In other words, your story gives credence to you being the one to teach this. It's not, hey, I thought this would be a good market, so I would write a book about this topic. And so I went and did a bunch of really cursory research and hired somebody on Fiverr to do it for me. And I decided to churn it out. It shows that you are an authentic source of whatever is in your book. That's why your story is so important. Because it's, and it does it on a subconscious level as well. So let me take you over here to this is inside the dashboard for Author Wizards. And we scroll down here on the right, we see we have all the storyline stuff. We have some storylines to help you sell. We have some storylines to help you create content. And the funny thing is that you can use all of them to do either of those things, which is
Awesome.
interesting. So the one that I want to point out to everybody is the origin story wizard, because that's basically what you and I just shared were origin stories.
Love it.
Where, where did all this come from? And so we've got several examples in here. I can, it doesn't take that long to fill out, but I don't think we don't really need to fill it out. But basically, that one that I did for you is right here. This was the story that I used on my sales letter to help sell my book. So I can hit this and I can this is the story literally that made it possible for me to survive getting fired from my job. This was the thing that this story was on the sales letter that made the house payment, the 2 car payments, and the electric bill.
Okay.
So, I'll just hit the highlights for you. Let me tell you a quick story about when I was trying to move to Florida to take my dream job, but had to sell 2 houses first. So at the time I was trying to move to Florida to take a big promotion, I was struggling to find a buyer for 2 houses I owned, and I was getting more and more frustrated and scared. Then something really bad happened. I was told I had to get there within 60 days or they had to give the job to someone else, which meant I couldn't give my new family the life I promised them. As you can imagine, I was in bad shape and desperate, but I wasn't ready to give up on my dream of providing a wonderful lifestyle for my family. Then I discovered the secret method for social engineering a house sale.
Ooh.
At this point, everything changed. I discovered how to get other people to send me all the buyer leads I wanted, get those buyers to compete for my house instead of me begging them to buy, and structure a deal so it was a win-win for all parties. Because I discovered the secret method for socially engineering a house sale, I was able to move to Florida so I could take the job, provide a wonderful life for my new wife, and help other people discover how to sell their houses too and save massive commissions. Now I'm living the dream of providing a wonderful lifestyle for my family. I never have to worry about struggling to sell any of my properties ever again. Because this actually, I became a real estate investor and, a bunch of stuff. So that's why I'm so passionate about sharing with you everything I've learned inside that I've put in everything I've learned and packaged inside of Selling Your Home Alone, so you can experience the same too. So, I mean, that tells the story, right?
That's good, man. And that was the name of your book,
Selling Your Home Alone. Yeah, that was the name of the book.
Movie Home Alone. Wow, that was so smart.
Yeah, that was why. You're exactly right. I mean, that back in the 90s, that was the big one.
Yeah.
So like, here's another one. This was to sell a program called Mini Site Creator. That, I mean, look for the patterns in here, but this was to sell Mini Site Creator. This was the story about how we did it.
This is so good.
And so, let me tell you a quick story about how I moved out of the trailer park after 7 years, moved into a new house, and got fired from my job all in the same month. Now, is that a hook or what?
It is.
So at the time I was trying to build my web development business, web design development business. I was struggling with selling new websites, creating websites, and paying a huge server bill every single month. I was getting more and more sick and frustrated and behind on my bills. Then the bottom fell out from under me when I collapsed one morning from an attack of atrial fibrillation in the upper chambers of my heart. Totally true story.
True story. Wow.
Which meant I couldn't keep beating the streets for new business selling websites and was forced to declare bankruptcy. True story. As you can imagine, I was in bad shape and desperate, but I wasn't ready to give up on my dream of using the internet to make a fortune. Then I discovered the secret to selling books and information products online to a hungry market. At that point, everything changed. I finally figured out how to sell electronic products 24/7 on complete autopilot with no physical delivery or costs other than credit card fees. Create sales messages that drove people to action and got them to click buy on my websites, and build up huge subscriber lists of book buyers. So I had a ready, willing, and able audience waiting for each new book I published. Because I discovered the secret to selling ebooks and info products online to a hungry market, I was able to live my dream of working from home with a legitimate business, make a huge difference in people's lives in many different areas, and use my passion for selling and teaching to have a huge impact on the world. Now I'm living my dream of using the internet to make I mean, I would edit this a little bit, but
Sure.
using the internet to make my living. I never have to worry about facing bankruptcy ever again. And that's why I'm so passionate with sharing with you about Mini Site Creator, so you can use the internet to make a fortune too. Now, I would edit this
Sure.
simply because that's an income claim, but I mean, you can see it goes through all 5 parts of that origin story, and you could use those points to create an hour-long talk. I mean, you
Oh
could,
yeah.
go into detail, but I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not sure how long that took to read, but I think it was less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, and
So,
I'm looking at our audience today. We have Renee Vidor, we have April Tribe, Juke. We have lots of people, and I'm just going to pick Renee and I'm going to pick April. Renee's story is about comparing and how her book's all about how to win in a world of comparison. And it's all about how it's for women, but it's for men too. But a lot of women are comparing themselves with other women. And she has an origin story. And I know it. I know our clients. Her origin story was she went to LA or Las Vegas, was supposed to be enjoying her time with her husband, and was looking all around at all the other women and feeling like she was inadequate. Jim, she could plug in her story,
mhm.
press build, and out comes this amazing book launch email that basically says all the benefits they're going to learn. April Tribe Juke was in a domestic abuse situation. She now has a heart to help other women that have been domestically abused. She can just pop her story. I mean, any topic. You
Yeah,
agree?
absolutely. And the thing to understand, by the way, your story can be used to sell a fiction book or a nonfiction book. It doesn't matter,
Ooh,
because you can use your story to explain why you wrote whatever book it is you wrote, because there's a purpose behind the book. There's always got to be a purpose behind the book. Like your
yep.
book, The Elixir Project, that's a fiction book, right?
Yep. But it's about how future society, how people's brains get hacked, and how today we live in a world of distraction. Yeah. I mean, and you could just go right into the $500 course, the live event, all that.
Right. So it's like, let's use the example of the guy I know who writes the zombie books and stuff, who, his origin story is that he's a NASA scientist,
Oh, wow.
and he's seeing, all these problems in the world, and he wanted to teach people survival skills in a way that they would that they would retain by doing
That's
it through
cool.
entertainment.
Wow.
So it's, the other thing people need to understand, especially when we're talking about stories, is that we are a collection of stories. You can't let, and okay, now we're getting away from author wizards, and we're going to do a little counseling.
Philosophy. Let's do it, man.
You can't let your story define you. Now let me go a little bit deeper into this. Some people are so bought into their story that they won't allow themselves to change, because they feel like that would violate the story.
It's changing
And
their identity. Yeah.
change it. Yeah. So you have to keep living that story. The stories of your life are like chapters in a book. There's a new chapter. You don't have to keep living that same chapter over and
Right.
over and over. It just like nobody would want to buy a book with the same chapter in every single chapter.
That's good.
That's not how it works. So I've seen people what they want to say, they want to stay so close to the story that defines them of who they are inside their own head, that they end up not growing, they end up screwing up, they end up doing
Wow.
things that are not progressing through life. So,
Definitely.
I mean, I can also tell that story to fit any moral that I want. I
Mhm.
can tell the story about selling the house and all that stuff, about, perseverance, about just so many different things when you
Sure.
understand the structure, and then
They're
you
almost like
understand.
tools. It's like a
Yeah,
toolbox. And on your webinar, you pull out this tool, you pull out that chapter. I like that. That's a good
right.
analogy, Jim.
It's like Legos. See,
Ooh.
you can assemble them any way you want. and
That
be
is
able
true.
to tell the story and have it lead anywhere that you want. And that's
Absolutely.
really important, especially when people are like, well, I don't have a story. Yes, you do. Something happened that caused you to want to write that book, and that's the origin story for the book. Do you see what I
I love
mean?
it.
Something happened that
Absolutely.
caused you to want to write that book, fiction or nonfiction, and that's the origin story.
I love it.
Unless your origin story is, I thought I could write a book and get $1 million, and people told me all along, the one thing you'll hear a lot is people have told me I should write a book, so that's why I'm going to write a book. Well, why? Let's take it a step back. Why do people tell you you should write a book? Well, it's because I'm always saying funny things in inappropriate
Mhm.
times, and okay, now why is that? Well, when I was a little kid, I learned that if I could make people laugh, that was a way to make friends, and that was also a way for me to be the center of attention in the family without
Yep.
seeming needy or greedy in that. So I just practiced being funny in different situations. And then I
Good.
realized that if I could help other people to be able to do that in not a pushy way or an over the top way, but just helping people to use humor to slide through life a little bit better, I could add some brightness to the world, and I could make a positive impact. So that's
I
why I
love that.
decided to write this book of jokes.
That's good.
I just made that up. I mean, I haven't written a joke book, but you see what I mean? That's
It's
you
powerful. Yeah.
find the story.
Once you know these tools, folks, you can really sell anything. And I don't mean that in a way that's spammy. I'm just saying that so many times we get locked in our own head, Jim. I mean, don't you agree? It's like
Oh yeah.
we just talk ourselves out of it. And
Yeah.
April, Renee, all these people, I know their stories. I know that it's going to set people free, but they need to, and don't you agree, Jim, that it's your story is a tool, but it's not the ultimate conclusion. In other words, we still want people to buy the book because the story is going to help them. The
You're
story is to help them.
Yeah, your story is a communication tool.
There you
That's
go.
what people get hung up on, like, oh, copywriting and content marketing. It's just communicating, it's talking to people. And
Right.
if you honestly believe that the book that you have is valuable, the book that you have, or the coaching that you offer as part of your book funnel or whatever, if you believe it's truly valuable and that it's really going to help people, it's going to entertain them, it's going to change their lives in some way, then you owe it to them to communicate it in a way that they're going to see the benefits and understand the passion behind what led you to create it and the reasons why. And so just like there are patterns for communication when you greet somebody. It's like, hey, how you doing? Hi, how are you? Hey, what's going on? How have you been? How's the
Right.
family? There's these patterns that
That's
people
right.
understand. This is what's happening right now. I'm in a situation where, you know, we're getting to know each other, or we're catching up,
Yep.
or it's the same thing in a sales situation. People love to buy stuff too. Let's just get that out the way.
Right.
People love to buy stuff. If you want, I mean, I'll prove it to you right now. See all those books on that bookshelf? That isn't 1/10 of the book, and all those books over there on that bookshelf.
Yeah.
That is not even one. I gotta say 1/100th of all the
Right.
books that I own.
Yep.
People love books. They just need a reason to buy the book. They may
That's right.
never read it. I hope they do.
That's
But
right.
I mean, you need to understand that people want to buy. You just gotta communicate with them in a way that they see the benefit of buying
Yep.
your book. And that's not being
Problem,
cheesy or sleazy.
solution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even fiction. And I know we got just a couple minutes left, but just some real quick things, folks. Why did everyone get so excited every year about the Super Bowl commercials? I mean, right? Who cares about the game, but the Super Bowl commercials. Why? Because it's sales copy. I mean, that's what it is.
But it's
Super Bowl,
entertaining, and
it
they're
is
little
entertaining, and
stories.
there's a process, and that you're right. There's a mini story that happens in 30 seconds,
Mhm.
enough that it warrants, I don't know, $2 million per commercial. So,
Yeah.
folks, you got to realize, like, the reason why they can charge so much for the commercial is because it works if it's
Sure.
done right. Now, we've seen commercials where we're like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Nobody remembers it. It was forgettable, but other people, everyone's talking about it the next day and they're getting millions of views. So Jim, it is powerful. Story is powerful. The medium is powerful, but you got to do it the right way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I
And the
got a
cool,
few. Yeah, go for it.
no, I was just saying, and the cool thing is that stories, once you understand how to structure a story in a sales situation, which the wizards can absolutely help you do, then you will internalize that. You'll internalize that formula and you'll be able to
Yes.
pull it out anywhere, anytime you want.
Yeah.
And it actually enhances your ability to tell a story. You're going to be a better storyteller. You're going to be more entertaining. People are going to be like, you know what?
I
Kary
gotta
tells
listen
good
to it.
stories. I'm going to
Yeah.
listen to what Kary's saying.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I love it. And folks, just to wrap things up, I want to tell you a quick story. And that is that not only can you get Author Wizards if you've seen it today and you like it, and I finally know the right domain name. It's authorwizards.com/special is if you want it right now. If you're interested in learning more and seeing demos, you go to authorwizards.com.